Okay, hello and welcome to our Unity tutorial. We are going to make a new project and we'll call this basic movement and level change. Okay, it's a 2D game and we'll hit create project. And we've a couple of assets here in our desktop, we'll get to them. We're going to make a little sprite, move backwards and forwards across our screen and change levels. Okay, so this is the Unity interface. You've got your, this window here is the editor where we can edit all of our game assets and move them around, place them, manipulate them. This is, what you see is what you get. So whatever's in this window is what the player is going to experience. This is what the camera sees. So this is the finished game. This here is my current level that I'm working on. If I have 10 levels, they might be all over here in the project window, but this is the current level. And the project window is all information in the game, from menus to head-up displays to the boss level to whatever you've got in your game. Everything is in the project window. It's a bit like Windows Explorer. You could have lots of assets here that are not in here, so because they're not in the active level. And then this is the properties window. So if I click the camera, I get the properties of the camera. So let's change this from blue to white. So over here is this background. Change that to white. And we can change all sorts of properties, but let's just move on. So we've nothing in our project. So let's import our character, which we drew in Photoshop. Now at the moment it's just a still image. So we need to change it from being a single sprite to multiple sprite and apply that. And then go into the sprite editor. And if we want to draw a box around each of these, we go slice. And now each one is, ooh, I think I might have moved that one. Yeah, this one is, oh, sliced them again. Slice, there we go. Now I can rename them. I can call this, I don't know, F4, frame 4, frame 3, frame 2, and frame 1. Oops, frame 1. And they'll be renamed in here as well. So I'm going to hit apply, and there we go, we've got our new frames. So I want to make an animation. So at the moment when I drag this in here, it only brings in one frame, and when I play the game, and that's what these controls are for, nothing happens, it doesn't move. So I need to make an animation. Now there are actually two things I need to make. One is or three things actually. I need to make the animation. So I need to tell Unity how to play these 4 frames. Then I need a component on this character that is the animation, that says play animation. And then I have another new asset that's going to be created, and that's the animation controller. The animation controller is if I had multiple animations, an idle cycle, run, jump, fire, fall, whatever they are, how I transition between them when they're played, etc., what keys each animation. So the animation controller will let you control how you move between animations, and then each animation individually you can edit and tweak. So you're going to have animations, an animation controller, and as I said, then on the actual character over here we'll have a component that allows this sprite to access all of that information. So let's go do that. So we select our character and go to animation. This is the animation window. It says that you have selected, to be animated to begin. This is F1, so let's go create. Give it a name. We'll call it walk and save it. And now what we're going to do is you can see the controller's been made and the animation's been made automatically. We didn't ask Unity to do that. So I'm going to drag the frames in here and press play, and he's flying along. This is my frame rate, so currently I'm 60 frames a second, so we'll make that 12, and it's a bit more reasonable. So I'll stop that, and that's saved. That I can make a new animation if I want, create new animation, and if I had more sprites I could drag them in, and then I'd have multiple animations. It's quite simple. Okay, so now when I press play in my game, there we go, I'm walking along. I have no physics, but I'm walking along. Now, very soon we'll get to multiple animations and how to transition between them, but for now we'll just go with one, and we won't worry about the controller. It only really becomes relevant when there's more than one animation. Okay, so let's give this guy physics. In order to have him fall under the weight of gravity, so fall down the screen, we need to give him a component that tells him to interact with the game engine and with gravity, and to have some sort of some control over that. So what we do is we go add component, not physics, because physics is for the 3D game engine, so we're physics 2D because we're making a 2D game. We'll put a box collider on him. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but this turned green, and we've got a box collider. So we're going to zoom in here a little bit, and we can click on this button here, edit, and then we can edit the shape of this box collider. What we can actually do is we can edit this. We could put more vertices in it. We can animate it, so if this character was punching, we could have the collision extend and then retract. That's how you would make maybe a game like Street Fighter. But for now we're just going to leave this guy inside a box collider. Now the box collider itself doesn't make him fall under gravity. If I press play, he's just going to animate away. Box collider gives him collision, so that when he falls under gravity, he'll interact with things. To actually make him fall under gravity, we used to give him this component here, rigid body 2D. And this means he will be affected by gravity. Now I can put in gravity 0, and that means that he's not affected by gravity at all. Gravity 0.5, he'll be 50% affected, or he'll be like walking on the moon. And then at a scale of 1, he'll feel the full force of gravity. So when I press play now, this guy's going to fall down the screen. Yeah, and he's gone. So let's put something for him to interact with. So let's bring in a new asset. And I'm going to go to my desktop and bring in my bar. This is a terrible travesty of a sprite, because it's loads of empty space. Let me zoom out again. So I'm going to take this bar and drag it in here. I'm going to click on the move tool and move it underneath. Now, that's not too bad. So let's put it there. And we'll call this, we'll rename it floor 1. Now, I'd like you to just take note of, it's called bar here, which was what the file is called. But in level 1, we haven't saved it as level 1 yet, but as in level 1, it's called floor. So how your naming conventions become really important. You could have 1,000 or 5,000 objects in this game, and if an object here, if its name doesn't correspond with what it's called in the project window, you'll click on things here and genuinely not know where they came from. So just be careful with that. Keep the names the same. So I shouldn't really call this floor 1, I should keep it called bar, but just for name. And I'm going to duplicate it. I right clicked, duplicate, and we'll call this floor 2, because I'm highly original. Now I've got 2 of them, but they're just sitting on top of each other. Now what am I going to do with these guys? I'm going to give them collision. So how did we do that with the player? We added the box collider. Now I don't want to add a rigid body to these guys because I don't want them to fall. So box collider. Too big, the box collider, so I need to edit it, and that is why I said my sprite was ridiculous. So I should really go into Photoshop, oops, and crop this, but I am not going to do that for now. I was going to say I'm too lazy, but I'm obviously not too lazy if I'm doing this. Floor 2, add component, physics 2D, box collider 2D, edit collision. So just trying to get this to follow the shape of our bar. That's approximately right, and it will be accurate enough for what we're doing now. So when I press play, I fall off. Very good. So it's working. There we go. Now, so I've got a rigid body, I'll fall under gravity, and then I've got collision. Not still enough, but that's not too bad. So I'm going to save my scene. I'm going to call it scene 1. So it's been renamed here, scene 1, and it has appeared over here as scene 1. Now we should start organizing ourselves now. So we'll go folder, and we'll call this scenes. And we'll drop that into the scenes folder, and we'll go create folder, and we'll call this sprites. And we'll take our bar and put it in there, and we'll take our walk and put it in there, and we could continue on. And that's how you will in future organize your games. You'll have folders, and these folders are actually made now in Windows Explorer when we get outside of Unity. Okay, and we're going to make one more folder. We're going to call it scripts, and in my scripts folder I'm going to import a new asset, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to bring in player movement. Now let's just double click on this, and then we're going to open up a new piece of software called MonoDevelop, and MonoDevelop allows us to edit our scripts. So I am, here we go, trying to zoom in here. Okay, we looked at this in class. We looked at that much in class and the speed variable. So I've just added one more thing rather than going over what we've already done. Input get key space. So when I press the space bar, I want to jump, and it's really similar to this. So it goes move. Where do I want to move? What direction? I want to move up. What speed do I want to move up at? Well, this speed, and let's change that so it's not the same. So give it a speed of 6, and then lock at the time. Now, why do I lock at the time? I explained this in class, but let me just explain that again. If I had a very fast computer that ran at 300 frames a second, this here function update, it updates every frame. So if my frame rate's really high, I'll update really frequently. If you had a computer that ran at 20 frames a second and I was multiplayer with you, I would kill you because I could move faster than you all the time. So in order to stop that happening, the faster machine making things move more quickly, we tie everything to time, and we all hope that time is consistent in the universe, or things will, yeah, well, that's another day's conversation. Jump is a variable, and we've set it to 6. So press the spacebar, move up by this amount. So file, save, go back in here, and this is, it's object orientated programming, Unity. So if you have a piece of software or a piece of code, you put it on the object that you want the code to affect. So on the player. And now when I click on the player, there's that code down there, and you can see my 2 variables, speed and jump. So let's press play, and let's go left, let's go right, and spacebar, I jump. So I can, oops, just about go up there, and you can see the collision's not quite right, but, and I'll probably fall over next time I try to do it, but that's fine. Okay, so happy days, it's working a little bit, not beautiful, but it works. So now what I want to do is I want to change scene. So I've got this scene here called scene 1. I'm going to save the scene, and then I'm going to go file, new scene, and in here I'm going to save that scene. I'm going to go file, save scene as, in my scenes folder I'm going to call it scene 2. Happy days, and this is scene 2. As before, I'll take my camera, make it white, and then just so I can identify it, I'm going to, into this scene, I'm going to open my sprites folder, bring in the bar, and I'm not going to do really anything with it, I'm just going to leave it there. So we know that scene 2 has a bar here in it. Okay. And save it, yeah. Now, what I want to happen is I want to bump into something and move to scene 2. So let's take the floor here and duplicate it and rename it. And we'll call this bump to change scene, which is a silly name, but you know, says what it does in the tin. Rotate. Let's rotate this around. Minus 90. That's what I should have done. Minus 90, and then move. So I can move it this way and move it up this way. So when my player bumps into this, I want to change scene. Now how do I do that? Well, I need a script to do that. So let's import a script. So let's select our scripts folder, import new asset, go to my desktop, and bring in my load level script. There we go. And let's open that in MonoDevelop. There, nope, it hasn't opened. So double click that. There we go. And let's see if we can zoom in. That's it. That's as much as we can zoom in. Okay, we can get rid of that. We don't need that. That's an old API, an old way of saying the same thing. So what have we got here? We've got import this thing, scene manager. Now what is a scene manager? It's a library of functionality. So if we want to access any of the functions to do with scenes, we need to, in the script, import this library. And now I can use this function here, or this command. It's not a function. And this command will be known to Unity because we've loaded in this library. So that's what that does. So import Unity Engine scene management. Now, this is an interesting piece of code that you will use again and again and again and again and again. I want you to imagine you are playing a game and someone, bad guy, non-player character, fires a gun and it hits you. So the bullet comes towards your character and it hits your character. And the bullet is tagged bullet. So the bullet hits you in the game engine, there's collision, and it knows that I've been hit by a bullet. Now how does it know it's been hit by a bullet? Well, the bullet's going to have a tag, and the tag's going to be bullet. So if you're hit by a bullet, maybe you lose 5 health. Then the next thing that hits you, that collides with you, has the tag grenade, and you lose 10 health. And then the next thing that hits you has the tag nuke, and then it's like game over. So tags are a really handy way of differentiating between what has collided with what. And we'll be doing it again and again. So if you get that, that's cool. If not, we'll go back over it. So function on collision. So on collision, enter 2D. There's different types of collision. So I can have on collision enter, on collision exit, or just on collision, which is basically the moment at which I collide, the moment at which the collision finishes, or while I'm in collision. And you may want different things to happen depending on what state of the collision you're in. These two words here are interesting. This refers to myself, and this refers to the object that is colliding with me. And then what I'm saying down here is, let's say I replace this with the word null. If null has the tag player, and then this is do something. So if I collide with something, and the something has the tag player, load scene 2. Okay, that's what that says. Now, let's, where does that go? Well, like I said, it's object orientated, so it should go on my bar. So if I click here, I can see my script is on it. So I'll remove that component and see I can drop it directly on there as well if I want. Now, I need 2 more things really to do to get this to work. If I press play now, it won't work. I'll drop and I will move, and there's collision. I'm hitting the wall, but I don't change level. And that's because I've said only change level if the thing that collides with the wall has the tag player. So let's go here and see, how do we tag this guy player? And up here in the properties it says tag untagged. So we're going to give it a tag player. We could make our own tag. We could have hundreds of them, but for now we'll just use this generic one, player. The spelling is really important. If I put a small p, it won't work, so it has to be exactly the same, so player. So now when I engage my game engine, it still won't work. And it returns an error and it says I haven't loaded the scenes into the build menu. So let's go do that. So we go File, Build Settings, and in here it says Scenes in Build, None. So add the open scene, okay, which is scene 1, and I can take scene 2 and drag and drop it in here if I had 3 and 4 and 5. So this is basically a list of the scenes that are in my game. If it's not listed here, it's not in the game. It doesn't matter if it's here in the project. When I go to export, you can see here I've got all my platforms. I can go to PS4, Xbox 360, Android, iOS, etc. When I go to export, no matter what's in the project, if I could have 50 scenes here, if only one of them is in the build, that's all I'll export. Now, let's just remind ourselves what's on scene 2, so save this one. Scene 2 is just the bar. Scene 1, let's press play, and walk across. Boom, I'm in scene 2. Okay, so that's quite a lot to do in one session, so hopefully you'll understand that, and like I said, we'll do it in class. And we'll build on this over the next week or two.